接着进行下一场特邀演讲，题目为 Education and Inclusive Growth。我们欢迎国家发展委员会副主委郑贞茂副主委为我们主持。The next invited speech will begin. The topic of the speech is Education and Inclusive Growth. Let's welcome the Deputy Minister of National Development Council, Executive Yuan, Zhenmao Zheng, to host this session. Please welcome the Deputy Minister, Zhenmao Zheng.
黄理事长，那还有各位参与的这个贵宾哦，大家早安哦。那我很荣幸担任这个场次的一个主持人哦。那首先我想先介绍我们这一场次的这个主讲的这个嘉宾哦，是来自这个韩国亚洲大学这个研究所跟经济系哦，同时也是高一大学经济系的这个教授，这个李Jong-Wha这个教授。那他本身是高丽大学经济系毕业，同时也是哈佛大学的博士哦。那他主要研究领域，我想都是在劳工经济学的领域哦。那搭配他要跟我们 present 的是一个非常有趣的一个 paper 啊，他主要在研究这个大家看到这个主题是教育包容性的一个成长，所以他去做了一个跨国的一个比较。那我们知道所谓的这个包容性成长 （inclusive growth），换一个比较白话文来讲，就是一个普惠的一个成长哦，就是说这个经济成长要能够让这个国民所得要让大家都能够享受到这个经济成长的成果所以又牵扯到这个所谓这个所得分配的问题。那一般大家认知都是说这个教育可以提升所得。那除了提升所得之外，也可以改善这个所得的一个分配，所以我们永远在讨论的就是教育针对经济成长跟所得分配那一般大家认知都是说应该都有帮助，但是从实证的这个资料要来做一个检验来讲，有时候这个外在的变数很多，所以有时候这样的一个概念并不是很清楚被呈现哦。那李教授他借由他这个统计的一个方法，那我觉得有一些这个观察是蛮有趣的那我想我在这里先不讲这个结论，由他自己来present他的 paper。那也许待会他present完之后，再做一点简单的这个评论。那同时如果获得他的这个许可来讲，我希望这个flow 也可以开放给大家，最后留一点时间大家来讨论。那作为主持人最重要就是控制时间。所以我先讲到这里，让我们以热烈掌声来欢迎这个国会会议长。谢谢。
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chen, for your kind introduction. And good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to be here today as your speaker. And the title of my presentation is just introduce education and inclusive growth. So I want to focus on analyzing the role of education in economic growth and income distribution across countries over the long period. So one of the main themes of this conference is trying to find out the relationship between education policy and economic development. We know education is very important, but we need to know the exact mechanism that education is related to national development to design the right policies. And then, more importantly, we need to know the exact quantitative impact of education on economic growth and income distribution, among others. That I think is important. That's why I decided this topic for today's presentations. My presentation covers several themes. First, I'll discuss some introduction, and then move to the relationship between education and economic growth, and then education and income distribution. And then I would like to focus on especially the special role of the education in this new era of new technologies, such as ICTs and automation. So this is a very small character, but this is a very famous chart. This is by the World Bank in 1993. They divided all countries in the world into the 4 groups based on the change of the income distribution and economic growth. And then they highlight East Asian 4 titles here in the upper part. And they are known for fast economic growth and equal income distribution. That was called miracle of growth with equity. So, we know the East Asian countries, or in general, many countries would rather achieve both fast economic growth and equal income distribution. But what happened to the East Asian countries? Now we understand that now they highlight Asian countries are known for deterioration of income distribution as well as stagnant economic growth. There is no miracle anymore. So this is the measure of the income distribution, which is called the Gini index. So higher number means the more unequal income distribution. So in East Asian countries, actually, since 1990s, income distribution became more deteriorated than any other regions in the world. So now we need to discuss how we could go back to this miracle or growth with equity. What is the important policies to achieve both fast economic growth and equal income distribution? So, not surprisingly, today I would like to emphasize the role of education to achieve both fast economic growth and equal income distribution, to make everyone live a better life over their lifetime. It's not my argument, because many literature in economics and in education field saying that the aggregate level of human capital, or in this case, I'm only focused on those human capital attained at schools and trainings, and such as the educational staff, is a critical determinant of economic growth over the long run. And their education is also emphasized as a determinant of earnings of his and her lifetimes. So income inequality is also determined by education. And then more generally, as emphasized by yesterday's keynote speech by Dr. Sakharopoulos, education will determine institution and social development and political development that will also have an impact on economic growth and income distribution. I'm just focusing on the 2 aspects, but for the national development, I think education is basically very important. So we need to make education policy a priority in national development policies. This is not what I said. In ancient times, well, Confucius said the role of education is very important for personal and national development. So this is what said. You know that everyone knows in Asia, Confucius emphasized education is very important. So it's going back to the history. But in the recent half century, human capital theory emphasized theoretical and empirical evidence, emphasizing the role of the education for personal and national development. So here, Gary Beck said that this new phase in human capital has reshaped the way government approach the problem of stimulating growth and productivity. So long time ago, they just tried to invest in the physical capital, just build the factory, build the machinery. But training, improving the quality of people would be very, very important for economic development. So I want to just go to how to measure educational stock or educational attainment or human capital in general in my research. So this I did the trying to do some measure the human capital stock or educational attainment by using the years spent in school by age. So in my early studies with Rabbero at Harvard University, I constructed a data set which is available online. This is the covering a broad number of countries, 146 countries. This aggregate by gender means that you can see the male population, female population, and total population. That's from the 1950 to 2010 at 5-year intervals. And this is showing the distribution of educational attainment among the population at the 7 categories. So, low formal education, incomplete primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary, incomplete tertiary, and complete tertiary. So, this kind of distribution could help to measure educational stock and then compare the educational attainment across countries. Recently, I wrote another paper actually extending this data to cover the long history up to the 1870, so to 2010. You can see this data from the website. So what I'm trying to do here, using this data set, it shows some mathematics formula that I'm trying to give. It's not very difficult to understand. So basically, if you have a distribution of educational attainment among the population, so now we can construct the estimate of average number of years of schooling for the working age population. Because you know that each age, how much they have the education during their school years, and then you can construct the average numbers. Then this average years of schooling at least provide an internationally comparable measure of educational capital stock, because we are focusing on the comparing across countries. We need some kind of enrollment or educational stock. This is more objective measures. In this measure, basically they assume that if the person who does not have any formal schooling is considered to have no human capital. But maybe we can say that even though the person didn't go to the school, may have some kind of human capital. So actually economists are using the different measure, so-called Minserian type human capital stocks. I mean, I will not go to the details, but basically if you assume certain assumptions such as the constant marginal rate of return to education, then you can actually the very close relationship between the average years of schooling and the human capital stock measures based on the Minser type equations. So here, basically, I'm saying that the people are, you can just look at the years spent in school or the rate of return multiplied by years of schooling. But if you think rate of return is the same for every country, it doesn't matter. But of course, not. I get that. But the rate of return, you can consider the rate of return later. Okay, but at least you can see the several measures, like the years of schooling or rate of return, multiplied with the years of schooling. Okay. There are two major issues in comparing the educational attainment. One is the quality of schooling. Of course, we cannot assume quality of schooling is the same across countries over time. So we can just say the average years of schooling is the reasonable proxy for educational attainment, but of course, quality of schooling is important. So we need to measure school outcomes, such as there are several measures, like test scores. You can see a lot of analysis based on the PISA or teams and these kind of measures. But the problem is that not every country participated in this international test. So international tests are more oriented to the OECD countries, but also these tests are not really covered for populations sometimes. So that's a problem. But educational attainment, you can construct the education average years of schooling covering whole population using the census data. And then the adult skills. Because we are basically interested in the skills of adults. But this is how to measure objectively the level of skills across countries. We can measure skills maybe for Taiwan, but not for compare the skills across countries. But there are some measures, and so for today's presentation, I have several papers using the quality of education or other skills, but it's limited in covering the number of countries. So today, what I'm trying to say is that if we're using all the countries in the world, what is the impact of education? Is this really important? Is this primary education or secondary education, tertiary education? You can say that in the United States, a certain level of education is important. But across countries, over the past half century, what kind of education really helped to promote economic growth and really helped to promote more equal income distribution? What happened to East Asian countries? So you need some kind of general finding first and then go to the specific countries. So today, I'm just focusing on the general countries. And then you can see this kind of data. You can generate, from the cross-country data covering the 146 countries, you can focus on some group of numbers. And then this is showing my data from the 1870 to 2010. So as you can see, the developing countries, actually 19th centuries, there are very limited progress in education attainment. But advanced countries, including Japan, actually education start improved a lot even in 19th century. They started earlier. And then this blue part is the primary school, and then the red one is the secondary school, and the green one is the tertiary school. So you combine together, which one has improved? You can see the tertiary school actually. So first, developing countries, actually the education started in 20th centuries. It's a worldwide expansion of the education, so you can see the history. And then tertiary education mostly started post-World War II. So there are some kind of lags. And then you can see that there are differences between big differences between the developing countries and the advanced countries. There are significant gap between two groups. So in the worldwide, we are still worried about the educational discrepancy between developing countries and advanced countries. So this is not only problem. And then I want to just emphasize again, if you look at the advanced countries, that include Taiwan, this primary school is already complete. So we are not focusing on the primary education. Yeah, we can say primary education is important, as just other people said, because it will determine the quality of subsequent learnings. You need to get the good quality of primary schooling, and then otherwise your schooling at the secondary and tertiary may not be worthwhile. Or maybe free education is more important than even primary education. But if we want to build some skills relevant for industries, you cannot learn these skills in the primary school. So initially, at the export-led industrialization in Korea, we focus on the primary and then junior secondary. And then now the industrial structure has changed completely. There's no more very labor-intensive industries. Why primary education, junior education is important? Yes, it's important for other purposes. I said political and social development. Your value system is dependent on your education. But for economic growth, now more higher level of secondary education and tertiary level education is very important. That's why we care about the quality of education in the tertiary schools. For my statistical analysis in this paper, I focus on from the 1980 to 2015. Up to this period, basically we see the significant increase or expansion of educational attainment during this period. And then for educational inequality, we use the Gini coefficient because you have some distribution of the education among the total population, so you can actually calculate the distribution, the inequality of distribution. So if everyone has the same level of education, everyone just graduate to university, that means the very equal distribution of education. Let's say half of people graduated only primary, and then half of population went to the graduate school, very unequal income distribution. So you can estimate this kind of using the either standard deviation of schooling or Gini coefficient. So I'll not get to the details, but this based on the Gini coefficient, actually in the worldwide, now we see the, along with significant educational expansions, now we also see more equal educational distribution. Now we see the many people who got educated. 50 years ago, only some people got a higher level of education. Now more equal distribution. So one of the consequences of these strong educational expansion and more equal income distributions. So I'll get to the first issues on education and economic growth. So, well, there are a lot of stories, but I want to just emphasize that many economists emphasize the role of education and then designed some methodologies to measure the impact of education on economic growth. So one is the growth accounting, is developed by Robert Solow. He got the Nobel Prize in economics, and then there are new growth theories basically emphasize the education or quality of education, quality of human capital is very important for economic growth, but it's interacted with other things, like other people. So externality of human capital, whom you are working together. And then more importantly, these skilled workers are very important for technological adoption and innovation. So here, interactions between technology and skilled labor would be very important, especially at the stage of the technological innovation. These people with innovative capability would be very important. That's why we always say in the United States, Silicon Valley got the very talented people together. This is human capital externalities, and they work together with very innovative technologies. So it's like a virtuous cycles. This growth accounting means this developed by the Solow. It's basically decomposition of the GDP growth into the several components. Here, for worker GDP growth can be decomposed by three components, right? Contribution by per worker, physical capital growth, contribution by per worker human capital growth, and total capital productivity growth. It's easy because the production requires three components: human capital, physical capital, and total capital productivity means some kind of technology or some kind of efficiency of the production. And then we can use the data, combine the data, and then we can construct these measures, and then the human capital start here, educational start is measured by assuming the marginal rate of return is 10% based on the second growth work. I mean, if you change this rate of return using the more different way, this does not really change the result. So, based on this result, I want just to report. You can do this kind of exercise for each country, but I will, for limited time, I can just show this result. So this result shows that the overall sample period from 81 to 2014 and the three sub-period, 1980s and 1990s and 2000s, you can see each component, how much they contribute to the economic growth. So here, these numbers between 2% and 3% is the per worker GDP growth. So each person, how much they produce more on the growth rate every years. So it's like a per income economic growth rate. That's between 2% and 3% worldwide on average. And among them, we can divide the three components. So in the 1980s, this blue part is the physical capital stock, and then this red part is the human capital stock, here education, and then the green part is the technological progress. So here, I'm trying to say overall period, about 18% is about 0.5 percentage point of the per worker GDP growth was contributed by human capital stock or educational improvement. So education contributed about 18% of economic growth. So this is the purely decomposition
But this means the two things. Yes, education is important. In some countries, it's more important. For South Korea, it's over 1 percentage point. So 1 percentage point of economic growth was done by the education itself. But as you can see, education is important. But for national development, education is not the only one. You need investment, you need technological improvement. So the question is how to combine three important productive factors. Physical capital investment, like business people are doing their businesses, build factories, going to the new industries, and this is one area. The other one is the human capital stuff. We need the educational institutions build their good graduate, they produce good graduate, but also we need to have training in the industries or technical education, so these are all important combined together. And then technological progress. Technological progress is also important. So, I just gave some result, but important thing is I can just emphasize that this growth accounting is the right way to look at the impact of education on economic growth. I mean, because I just separate three components individually. So I assume physical capital accumulation or technological progress would not be related to the education, but skilled workers can promote the more innovations. Yes, that's why the more talented people are important, especially in this age of the new technologies. And physical capital accumulation. The investors will come to the countries or regions which have more abundant human skills. So they are need to combine it together. So the other way to look at this impact is the so-called growth regression. I will not get into the details, but this way is the economists sometimes prefer, sometimes still think this is not enough. I mean, but anyway, we need to control all other factors which will have impact on economic growth. We know the fertility rate, population growth is important, rule of law is important, investment is important, trade is important, democracy is important. Certain things we control means that we want to identify independent impact of education on economic growth. So this is the way we did and also others did. And then we also control some reverse causality. Sometimes people just show enrollment is highly correlated with economic growth. Then maybe causality goes the other way, because a higher income will stimulate more investment in education. So not the other way, education is promoting economic growth. So we need to be careful in identifying the independent impact of education or education policy when we design the education policy for national development. So I don't want to go to details on this for economic growth. I will not say that you should read my book with Ralph Becker published in 2015, but I'll summarize the result here. Yes, education is important, even controlling all other factors. But there are certain thresholds. You cannot say this is linear. So first year of education at primary school is as important as the last year in the college. So what we have found out, especially using the data in the recent 3 decades, secondary and tertiary education is more important for economic growth. This does not mean what the others said is the rate of return, especially in your lifetime. Primary school is higher. Yes, primary school could be higher. But for economic growth, this education should be impacted with other factors, and then it may not be the personal rate return, but for nationwide, it could generate more productions and generate more profits. So I'm saying it's the secondary and tertiary level education is more important. And then, very important finding is an increase in the female school attainment for given values of the male attainment has a very strong positive impact on economic growth. So you need to improve not just the male, but female educational attainment And this could be interpreted as a raising female education attainment level up to the male attainment is related to the improving economic and social environment, which is more favorable for national development. I'll move to the income inequality issues. So for income inequality, this is called the human capital theory. So basically the YS is your income with S years of schooling is related to your rate of return, RJ, and over your lifetime. And then if say let's assume R is equal across all educational levels, then you can simplify this. So basically it's saying that yes, your income is determined by your education level as well as the rate of return to education. So if education is distributed very unequal, then income will be unequal. This is clear. So this is a strong possible relationship between education distribution and income distribution. Education attainment is more complicated. In mathematically, here S is in the two places. So S could be positively correlated with income inequality or negatively, depending on the value of covariance. Here means that your expansion of education could change your rate of return, more favorable to equal income distribution or more unequal income distribution. So if you care about not just the economic growth, but also income distribution, you need to be a little bit careful because you do not want to expand education to the already very highly educated people. You want to educate the people who are not very favorable in getting access to the higher level of schooling in the society. So basically this empirical framework looks a little bit complicated, but it's not really very complicated. What I'm trying to do here is basically the educational attainment or educational Gini is related to the income Gini, but also educational distribution is related to the education Gini. So, and then you can say that, wait a minute, income distribution is also determined by many factors, like economic progress, yes, and then trade, yes, and government policies, yes, inflation, yes, other factors. So we control all other factors and then only identify the sole impact of education on income distribution. What's the result? I mean, this kind of coefficient shows that this is a highly significantly correlated. So basically, let me just interpret this result. In the column 1, basically show that you need to make education more equally distributed in a society to achieve more equal income distribution. Second part shows that to make education more equal, you need to improve the education over time. So you need to invest more for the education. Actually, another regression shows that the education spending is very important. Okay. Here, what we trying to say? So quantitatively, as again, I mean, sometimes you need to know the quantitative size of the impact. If you improve the educational attainment by 3 years, that's about one standard deviation. That means across countries, on average, they are dispersed by 3 years of the differences about 3 years of schooling. That means that explains about 20% of income distribution over time. So if you improve education, you can reduce the income inequality by 20% at the current level, from the current level. So it's, of course, you need to look at the other factors, but education is important. So up to now, I just explained that, yes, empirical result shows that strong education expansion and equitable educational distribution played a major role for sustaining the equitable economic growth. But the real question is what will happen in the future? We are trying to build the education for future, not the past. So past evidence does not tell the future. So what should I say? There are a lot of challenges. So now we see in the age of the new technologies. What are the challenges? Yes, there are a lot of criticisms. Because even though education has been expanded, some people are useless. They are not have adequate skills needed by industries. So what's the problem? And then people are saying the so-called post-industrial revolution. Now technology are improving so quickly, centered on these cyber and physical systems, like the Internet of Things and robotics and autonomous vehicles. What kind of skills we need? So the problem here is that people in economics emphasize that the ICTs and the automations will transform the nature of work and workplace. So robots, I just emphasize robots, will quickly replace humans for routine repetitive tasks. One study finds that 47% of workers in the United States have jobs at high risk of potential automation. But studies show that the interaction between technology and job vary across occupations. As you can see, this chart is divided the jobs based on the two criteria. So some jobs like here, finance professionals and tellers and secretaries, there are many more, but I just selected them here. I'm sorry to say these are very much exposed to the ICTs, and then this is a high risk of computerization. Will be replaced by the machines. Will be replaced by the automation. So we say that. Fortunately, here teachers are relatively safe. Software developers, they are using ICTs, but their jobs are survive. Here, others, even in the less exposed to the technologies, some people are very susceptible to the new technologies, like agricultural workers, cooks. Maybe we will see robot cooks later, not just human cooks. So this kind of things will happen. But I want to emphasize here, this chart is important because evidence shows that new technologies reduce routine and repetitive tasks, but create new non-routine occupations. So the left side actually shows that in the United States, well, not just the not only white collar. It doesn't matter, white collar and blue collar, it's non-routine work, not repetitive workers has been increased, the jobs has been increased. And then across countries, robot density has a negative relationship with this routine employment, but positive relationship with the non-routine employment. So I think that we claim there is a race between education and technology now. And then the speed is much faster. So that's the important things. So what I'm trying to say here? Because as you can see, now the preparing adequate skills for all workers is essential for economic growth as well as the income distribution, which I call inclusive economic growth. The outcome of this race determines whether the dividends from the new technologies are realized and the benefits widely shared. We want to make the benefit is greater and then more widely shared. Then even in the United States and this mainland China, you can see this now inequality has been rising. So the issue here is like this, we discussed a lot, and then I attended some sessions here. Education job mismatch. Yes, it's not the only problem. It's not a problem only in Taiwan. All across countries, OECD study shows that over 22% of workers, it's much higher in France and even Japan, they think they didn't get the relevant job, relevant education in schools, and then they feel overeducated for their jobs. So some education are not relevant. This skill mismatch is a serious concern even in South Korea. We see this issue because it poses unemployment, underemployment, and job dissatisfaction. So unemployment rate of university graduate is very high. It's over 30 years, this is the highest time, except the Asian crisis time. But many employers saying that they could not find out right candidate in filling vacancies. there are vacancies, but they are graduate. But unemployment rate is very high. So it's matching issues. It's very high. And then this chart shows that maybe if you are interested, you get this paper. It depending on what kind of education you got in the schools. So it's maybe more controversial, but especially engineering schools and then some like economic, social sciences are okay, relatively, but some other sectors like agriculture and services and these sectors, actually the overeducated means your wage penalty is very, very high. So what we should do? We think we need to prepare not just the current workers, but future workers, means the current student for educated skills in response to the current and the future demand of the labor market. So under the environment of the rapidly changing technologies. So skills of tomorrow. What kind of skills of tomorrow? Because there are time lags. The technology has been changing so quickly. So we don't know. So I just summarized from the existing studies. People are saying there are so many things, but in my view, basically people saying that these 4 C's, these competencies, critical thinking and creativity, communications, collaborations are very important. Why? These kind of technologies, skills, humans retain a considerable advantage over artificially intelligent machines. AIs may replace other parts, but this kind of competencies, critical thinking, maybe we could do better than the machines. And then characters, values, right values, and so Dr. Bo mentioned these values would be very important, yes. How to build this kind of qualities together at school is very important. So for the national development, national economic development is a very broad concept. So I want to just narrow down 2 issues, innovation and skill development. So for government, what should it do? Government, of course, should care so many things, but government should work hard to prepare workers for educated skills. So improvement in education and skill development system must be a priority. Yes. So there are many things we understand that good quality of teachers are very, very important. I'm a professor, so I should emphasize that professor is very important to provide good quality of education. And I think it's I mentioned that for economic growth, secondary and tertiary education is nowadays more important, and primary education is maybe not important. But again, basic education is very important because it will give the subsequent advantage in the subsequent educations. I mean, you need good education at the basic schools, and then more importantly, lifelong learning. Because technology has been changing so quickly. So you need to keep their skills up to date with the new technologies, and then you need to provide strong incentive to workers and the firms to reskill and upskill in response to the new technologies. Okay, so I think it's another issue is I didn't have to elaborate time to elaborate it. We need to minimize the adverse effect of new technologies. This is also important. We cannot only emphasize skill development. We need to build some kind of social protections. Also, labor market policies are also important. That's why, as Dr. Huang mentioned, President Huang mentioned in the keynote speech in the national development, we need to look at the national development and we need to integrate education policy as an important and critical part of the national development policy. I think that's important. This is my last slide. So what are the policy implications? Yes. I don't want to get into the very detailed design ones, but again here, I want education and skill policies to be critical to the national development policies, especially in the age of ICTs and automation, and then improving education and lifelong learning with education and labor market and social protection policies can help to reduce skill mismatches and make everyone benefit from new technologies. And then maybe you can ask them, what are the very specific policies? But using this kind of cross-country evidence, you can show that what are the average impact. But I want to emphasize that there are many economists are using microdata and then other experiments to design country-specific policies. When we design country-specific policies, we can learn from the other countries' experience. We can learn from the theories, but we need to design the right policies based on the right data and the right experiment. Thank you very much for your attention. 谢谢。
好，那因为时间的关系哦，所以我在这里先说抱歉，可能没办法让大家发问哦。那我最后做几个简单的一个comment哦。Professor Lee 的一个演讲，我想其实比我们预期还更多，因为他后面又加了这个automation， 就是还有这个很多 AI 时代的一些对教育政策的一个启发。那对台湾来讲的话，我认为就是说，其实像我们黄教授在最后的建言也有提到，就是台湾这个学用落差，然后他建议国发会应该对人力技职教育的人力需求，应该每年做一些调查，那提供给学校做这个招生的一个建议哦。我想这一点我们应该可以来采用。那另外刚才这个 Professor Lee 里面也特别提到，不是特别提到，但我觉得很有趣的，就是说，好像对女性的这个教育，那所得到的一个所得的一个成果会比男性更高。那我想这个对我们国家的启发来讲，或是说对整个亚洲的启发来讲，提升这个女性的劳动参与率，这也是一个蛮重要的一个政策。对，因为我们的女性事实上受到非常好的教育，但是并没有在这个职场上来有所发挥哦。那所以如何提供一个女性更好的一个工作环境，那鼓励更多女性参与，我想这也是我们重要的政策。那最后一点，我就特别提到，还是提到说现在政府的一个教育政策，那尤其最近这几天大家很多也在讨论的一个双语的一个教育，那我想这个在推双语的教育，那最终的目的当然还是要连接到这个所得的一个成长，但是在推双语的教育过程，就很多社会的评论就在讲这个师资不够啊，或是城乡差距啊。会不会造成就是这个未来的所得差距更为不平均？那我想就是我们在做这些政策的时候，都要考虑到这些要点，然后让政策的推行更为顺畅。那最后就是我觉得还是要感谢这个 Professor Lee 因为他的里面的讨论，我觉得有更多的启发。比如说我们现在讲的，在他研究里面就是讲到这个受教育的这个年限但是这个有 RAC 的大概就是只能最终到高等教育，还是以文凭为主但是将来的很多技职的教育或是在职的这个教育，那我们怎么去评量这些教育的年限以及这个教育的内容它的 quality 我想我们教育界还有很多的工作要做。那因为时间关系，最后我们是再给 Professor Lee 一个热烈掌声，谢谢。
谢谢郑贞茂副主委以及 Professor Jong-Wha Lee。Thank you, Deputy Minister Zheng Baozhen and Professor Jong-Wha Lee。现在是茶叙时间，两边两侧均备有茶点，请各位贵宾前往茶叙区。分组座谈将于11点准时开始。分组座谈